Dennard of Dallas. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So you're going to be at the State of the Union on Thursday, and I'm wondering what was your reaction when you were invited by Congressman Colin Allred, and why is it so important that you be there?
Well, we're so excited to be able to go. I really never imagined that I would be going to the State of the Union, but I'm incredibly honored. Congressman Allred called me on the phone and invited me to join him, and of course I said yes, so we're really looking forward to it.
What message do you hope it sends?
Well, I think what's going on in our state for the reproductive rights that have been taken away for anyone in our state, it's really important for us to be talking about it more and really putting it out there in the open so that viewers who are going to be tuning in to listen to Dr. Biden and President Biden really understand what's going on.
And the president and the vice president have been making reproductive rights an issue, and they're going to be focusing more on that as the campaign continues. And I'm wondering, why do you believe that this will make a difference? Or do you think it will make a difference?
Well, I certainly hope it's going to make a difference. Since I have come out and told my story, I've had so many individuals come up to me and say, thank you. Thank you for bringing this out into the open. Thank you for having the courage to talk about such a personal, tragic event that has happened to you. And really my response is, of course, well, thank you for the support, but also if this issue is really important to you, please go vote like it's important to you. And my hope is that individuals who might not have gone to go vote before or voted differently in the past, this particular issue will really change who they vote for.
And I want to know a little bit about what happened, because you've sued the state, you're part of this lawsuit. So take me back, talk to me a little bit about what happened in your case.
Right, so back in July of 2022, right after the fall of Roe, my husband and I found out that we were pregnant and we were ecstatic. I had recently had a miscarriage several months before, so we were cautiously optimistic, but also very, very excited to be expanding our family. We have a very healthy daughter and son, and we were hoping to have a third child. So we started off really excited, and soon when I went to go see my OBGYN for my second visit at around 11 weeks, I was diagnosed with a pregnancy that had anencephaly, which is a diagnosis that is incompatible with life. So while I knew that my pregnancy, if it were to continue, would either pass away inside my womb or become a baby that died in my arms, because there was a heartbeat, I was not allowed to get an abortion in my state. It was devastating. It was horrible, horrible news to find out that I had a pregnancy with this diagnosis, but really the most painful part of the process was knowing that I had to flee my own state to get care and to be able to receive an abortion that I should have been able to receive in my state.
How soon did you know? And, was there anything that could have been done? Because, was your life in jeopardy?
So this is the problem. My life at that moment when I was diagnosed with a pregnancy that had anencephaly was not in immediate danger. I was not hemorrhaging, I was not infected. Because of that, an abortion was not an option for me, and I had to flee my state like a criminal to go receive an abortion out of state.
Where did you go?
I went to the East Coast.
And how difficult was that to maneuver and find a doctor? Because all of a sudden you have to leave and find a doctor who's willing to do this, right?
Correct. I am the best case scenario, right? I myself, I'm an OBGYN. I knew the diagnosis the moment that I looked at the ultrasound screen. I could tell that there was something catastrophically wrong with my pregnancy. I didn't need a doctor to tell me to counsel me. And because of the connections that I have in the small world that is OBGYN medicine, I knew that I could go out of state and use my connections through knowing other doctors and providers of where I could potentially go. But it didn't make it any less painful. It was still extremely traumatizing. I mean, I had to flee my state. I had to find childcare. I am fortunate enough to be able to afford a plane ticket, to be able to afford to leave my family, to leave my job for a little bit so that I could receive a very standard, safe procedure that should have been offered to me in my own state. I tell people the hardest part of this entire experience, it was devastating to have that diagnosis. It was devastating to know that that pregnancy was not going to end in a little brother or a little sister for my children, but the feeling of being abandoned by my state. I'm a 6th-generation Texan. I have worked really hard to provide care for the women in our state. I'm here raising my children in this state. And the moment that I needed Texas the most, my state was not there for me. In fact, completely abandoned me. And that is what I grieve every day.
I was going to say, you said before that you didn't need another doctor, your doctor, your OBGYN to tell you that the baby was having big problems.
Correct.
You saw it on the screen. I can't imagine watching that, seeing that for the first time.
It was a moment I'll never forget. And it still brings me to tears to think about it. Because any mother is going to be looking at the screen and hoping, please God, let this not be true. Let this be a healthy pregnancy. But the physician side of me knew what I was seeing. And I have such privilege. I have very close relationships with my OBGYNs that have taken care of me. I love them dearly. They are mentors to me. But there was nothing that they could do for me in that moment other than to give me a hug and tell me how sorry they were. And I just wonder what it might be like for anyone else in my state who doesn't have such privilege.
And what is your message to public and lawmakers who are unapologetically pro-life?
Everyone is allowed to have their own opinion. But when it comes to a woman's body and her reproductive health, the decision on what needs to be done for that particular woman should be made between her doctor and herself. Women are very smart. They know what they want and they know what's best for them and for their families. And we need to trust women. I speak to women every single day in my office and we have these types of conversations. My patients are wonderful and they're smart and they know what they need. And it is not up to a lawmaker to make those decisions for them. It's an intimate, personal decision that should be placed in the lap of that individual.
Do you see anything changing?
I am a glass half full type of gal. I like to think that there's room for us to make change. That's why I'm speaking out. That's why I'm here. So I think if we can all come together and just remember why we're here and what is important, taking care of women, taking care of families, then we can come to a conclusion of what the right thing to do is.
What do you want to see ultimately?
I want to see these restrictions removed. I want to see autonomy back in the hands of individuals, of women and their doctors, so we can provide standard medical care for them and they can get the care that they need. It's no surprise to anyone that taking away care, restricting care, leads to poor outcomes. It's just logical. We know that it happens. There's so many studies to show it. We need to take care of our women and our families.
Now, there are no exceptions in this case, in your case,
Yeah.
when the fetus's condition is incompatible with life.
Mm-hmm.
Should the state change that? Because as long as Republicans are in power, I don't see them loosening restrictions and becoming more like New York or California or New Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
right? But do you think this is something that Republicans could change?
Any little bit helps. So if we're starting with lifting restrictions for what we call in the medical world as fetal anomalies, that's a start, but it's not enough. Roe wasn't even enough. We really need to protect women. And right now, I don't know a single pregnant woman who has benefited from Dobbs.
And as far as, I mean, we just saw recently in vitro fertilization become an issue because the Alabama Supreme Court ruled that children created through that process, or an egg, created through that process, is considered a child. And so, do you think that adds to the controversy with abortion?
I think it adds to the enormous amount of confusion and the uncomfortable position that doctors have now been placed in. You see this time and time again. We are getting placed in positions that are so uncomfortable where we aren't able to use our skills anymore. And when doubt is placed, when threats are placed on doctors, whether it's for their medical license, whether it's that they're going to get thrown in jail, whether it's that they'll be fined hundreds of thousands of dollars, that doubt is enough to restrict care and to paralyze care. Fear is very paralyzing. It's what is preventing doctors from providing standard medical care for patients in need, and it's leading to really bad outcomes. I talk to patients every day, and I have patients who have become pregnant through IVF. I see them every day, and I can tell you that every individual has a different relationship to the embryos that they own. And that's good, that's okay. It's not the state's job to decide what kind of relationship one should have with their embryo. And it's another example of the state's getting in the way of really, really good care.
Do you see the state making, I know that there are some who want the state to firm up the laws to make sure that there's protection for people who are going through the IVF process. I suspect you'd want the same thing.
Having infertility, going through that infertility process, it's excruciating, it's painful, it's isolating. Patients really need more support and more care and less restrictions. They need to feel like they can take care of their family the same way that I can take care of my family.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you about that you think is important to tell people?
There's so many thoughts that that go through my head. I think individuals in our state need to realize what's at stake, because this is not good. I have these conversations with my patients every single day, and there's so much fear about starting families and what could potentially happen if an individual is in a situation like mine, or in a situation like any of the plaintiffs who are in the case with us. It's scary, but if we can all come together and realize that families and women are vitally important, then I'm hoping we can make a lot of change.
Dr. Austin Dennard, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it.